Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Cracking the Cryptic. So last time I did not do interference. Instead I went and tried to do something easier with Line Sudoku here, which took 124 minutes, which is still, I guess, lower than the average at this rate that I'm taking. But yeah, I don't think it really worked as well as it did the first time. I have slept since then, so I'm coming in fresh with constant overlap. A Thermo Arrow Sudoku from Tyrgannus. Tyrgannus, yeah. I'd assume that's probably Tyrgannus, gain us. Let's hop in instead of struggling with how to figure out how to pronounce the name. Anyways, yeah. Classic Sudoku rules still apply. 1 through 9 must appear once in every row, in every column, in every box. Thermometer variant means that numbers increase along as they move along the thermometer, starting at the bulb. So if this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, that's at least one valid connection. But because there's some room here, this could be 1, this could be 3, this could be 4, this could be 5, this could be 7, and then this could be 9. You could skip some numbers. And then arrow numbers. And see, this is kind of a perfect example of not really having enough tutorialization and not enough pictures. These icons aren't going to help you at all, and they haven't. They're pretty, but that's all they really are, and they're not even that pretty, frankly. A bigger video game that was expecting a bigger audience would definitely create a situation where you would have 3D custom molded in something like Blender icons here, not just a flat emoji icon. Although flat emoji as an art style probably does work somewhat well with Sudoku. All of this imagery, frankly, could have a 3D effect to it. The numbers could have a bit of shadowing on them and look more 3D, and that might very well make it easier to solve the puzzles instead of them just being flat pencil and paper images. The human eyeball and brain, more the human brain than even the eyeball, is used to seeing 3D objects. We're not used to seeing flat images in nature. Like, sure, even if you keep most of your time reading books or looking at screens that are technically flat, you still spend your formative years as a baby walking around looking at 3D objects. Still, from getting from point A to point B in your normal adult lives, you're navigating and looking at 3D objects. It's just a 3D world. So turning any game, even a Sudoku game, a little bit more 3D, what you probably would describe as 2.5D in any other game, makes a lot of sense. Even when you have pixely, like RPG games that are 2D sprites, very often the 2D sprites are in 3D environments nowadays, and very often you'll have that sharp contrast between a 2D cardboard cutout character like Paper Mario in a 3D environment. But yeah, there's a major problem here. I could see lots of people just saying this is the arrow and this is the thermometer, and making that mistake. Of course, you would have only gotten to this puzzle if you'd done some previous ones, and almost certainly you have done a thermometer puzzle before where there weren't arrows, and you've probably done an arrow puzzle where there weren't thermometers, so you should know at this point, but you could forget. Like, these are super long and difficult puzzles, at least for me. So I could see doing one, then coming back 4 or 5 months later and having forgotten everything. But the rule for the arrow variant is that the numbers along the shaft of each arrow must sum to this. So what I imagine the case here has to be is that this one here could be 1, but it can't be 2, could be 3, and if it was 3 then that would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it also could be 4, because then that could be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But that's the limitation there. That means then that this can't be 1, obviously. So this could be 3, 4, 5. And that means this could be 4, 5, 6. That means this could be 6, 7, and yeah, 5, 6, 7. And then 6, 7, 8. Which, if my logic is staying true here, then the biggest possibility here would be 7, 8, 9. This could not be 6 in any way. So this could be 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because there is a 2 already here. At best, it could be 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then 1. That is the absolute lowest. So we can take that same logic here and say this could be 2, 3, and maybe 4. Let's count that out. It can't be 1 because of this. So if this was 4, this would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So then this should be 3, 4, 5. This should be yeah, I've got this totally backwards once again, don't I? Okay. I don't know what it is my instinct here, or if maybe it's the case that thermometers sometimes switch which way they go depending on the puzzles. But you would think if that was the case there'd be something else called a reverse thermometer. But I put all the wrong information here, and then that's going to change everything. Numbers must increase as they move along the thermometer, starting with the bulb. So in that case, these both probably are 9, 8, 7. And then if this was 6, this was 5, 4, 3, 2. Nope. It's even higher than that. 6, 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. Can't be 5. So it's the other direction. Then this should be 5 through 8. And then this should be 4 through 7. And this should be 3 through 6. And then this should be 2 through 5. And then this should be 1 through 4. So yeah, starting at the base with the lowest number, which is the right way this goes, then this could be 4, this could be 5, this could be 6, this could be 7, this could be 8, this could be 9, and none of it is affected by this 2. There was just this weird temptation for that to be the case. This also could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as the low end there. Now, fill in this bulb, which I think at this point, either the overlap is going to mean something, which honestly I don't think it is actually going to mean that much. It's going to be just box Sudoku rules where the overlap means something. If this was 6, this would be 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So it is the exact same pattern because it is the exact same length, and I guess the only slight difference is that a 1 might affect this and a 2 might affect all 3 of these. And if this is correct, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be right, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 would be right. So, okay. Now, immediately, that doesn't tell me much. And I could tell you that by default, this couldn't be a 1 just by basic Sudoku or 2, but also a 1, 2 here would be a, and we don't have any calculator for this one at all, when I think a combination calculator might be helpful towards certain sums, or a chart. There definitely are some charts that could just be hidden back behind here to explain certain rules. And that'd be a great way to just have tutorial information, is if there was a 3x3 grid of charts and you clicked on them and then they got bigger if necessary, and then you just saw small thumbnails. And almost certainly you could make in Sudoku 6 reminder charts on specific strategies or strategies specific to specific variants. Heck, even if, for as much as Cracking the Cryptic talks about the secret as calling it a secret and talking about it to everybody, just having the secret hidden back behind here, so whenever so it's hidden like it is a secret, but it's pretty easy to find. So even if you just had text here that says all of the images all of the cells in a box must equal 45. Although, I guess in part why the instructions might be missing here is because the other format. So, if we were to change the layout to traditional and go back, then you have this format, which then centers this when the secret's there. And the hints are there. Excuse me. There's a ton of dead space in traditional format here and here. But if you did like this traditional format, I could see hiding it now, giving more of a reason. And this does at least give you all of the basic instructions without kind of having to scroll down, but also at a 1920 by 1080 1080p resolution, seems like you could easily squeeze the hints all over on one side and keep this box centered instead of having it move, because that movement definitely is not welcome. To me, at least. Okay, let's continue with solving the puzzles then. I was gonna look at this one. The smallest number that would have to be here, and there is some interference here, and I guess we should just address a thought and run the scenarios first. Would be, this could be 1, 2, 3. If this was 1, 2, 3, then that would add up to 3 plus 3, which would be 6. It would mean this is 4, and then that would mean that this could be 5, but then this couldn't be 6. Because the 6 would be here. Alright. Let's just pencil mark that as probably a negative possibility. Probably the best way to do that. And this may be just speculative right now. But yeah. 1, 2, 3 here makes this 4, makes this 5. Means this cannot be 6 and it can't be anything higher. So really can't be 6. So then I suppose we should work our way down and say that if this was 1, 3, 4, no, 1, 2, yeah, let's start that way. 1, 2, and then 4 would be 7. That would let this be 3, that would let this be 4, that would let this be 5. So that's doable. And then from that we could go further to find something that was an 8 and one that would be a 9. So this could be 1 and then skip the 2 or the 3. Because one of these needs to be a 2 or 3. Or this could be, let's run the other scenario where 1 is not used. Which would then make this have to be at the least 2, 3, 4. And that gets you to a 9. Yeah. So I think our logic is right here to say that the numbers available here are 1, 2, 3, 4. And that makes this weird quadruple of a 1, 2, 3, 4 in this box. Which, yeah, there's just no way you're going to have a 5 as a bigger number and then a 1 and a 2. Is there? No, 5 seems like it is also viable, so I could be kind of off the rails here. 6 and then a 1 and a 2 also would be viable. We can eliminate at least 7 because 7, 1, and 2 would be 10. Is there some way we could get to 6 with bigger numbers? No, I don't think so. Like, because if I played a 5 here, then it would be a 1 and 2, it'd be an 8. The only combination to 6, I bet, is 1, 2, and, well, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. I bet is the only possible combination. And then the numbers on the arrow don't have to be inherently the same or different, so it is possible you could put a 1 here and a 1 here and then like a 2 here and a 2 here, but I think we can eliminate and pencil mark that there actually cannot be any number below 6. just not going to happen. You can't get 5 in any combination with 3 spots. Which at that point, it's better to just mark this and then remove the pencil marks. I over-selected things there, but whatever. And then the possibilities of a 7 as far as combinations go could be a 1-6, could be a 2-5, could be a 3-4, can't be 7-8 or 9. And then the possibilities of a 8 would be 1-7, which would add 7. And then one possibility of 9 is 1-8, so that adds 8. So that's every single number, basically, as possibilities. So then we need to look at the rest of this hint. Okay. So we know here that it can't be 1. And it's probably going to put some pressure on this, whatever it is. But theoretically it could be 5, 6, 7, 8, and 6, 7, 8, 9. Which, yeah. These are easy to fill in once you start from that spot, and it's just raising the range by 1, shifting the range over 1 on the number line. And this spot here may put some extra pressure on this. And then we know that 1, 2 is the smallest combination, so this is going to be 3 through 9 as a possibility. So that's going to be pretty easy. And this could be, this can't be 2, but it could be 1. And then it can basically be everything up to 7. Then this could be 8 and this could be 9. So we're probably not getting much information from that at the moment. Then we shift up 1. This could be 3 and this could be 4. So everything up until 8. And we shift up again. This could be 4 through 9. And then last one we can start by filling in, and then it's going to get incredibly difficult after this point, is this arrow, which this could be 1, there wouldn't be really a problem there. This could be 2, that gives us 3, and this could be 3, that gives us 6. So the possibility is 6, 7, 8, and 9. So high numbers and low numbers are the focus on this, but I'm not sure if there's a guarantee on this. I see 2 places of interest, here and here. So is there possibly a triplicate here that must exist? Could it be that if a 7 was here, this would be 6 and this would be 5, or could be 6 or 5? But could it be a possibility you have to have a 7 That's the number that's jumping out to my eye. 9, 8, 6 seems possible to skip a 7, and like 6, 5, 4 skips a 7. So there are scenarios that skips a 7. But maybe there might be a triplicate of 3 overlapping numbers, but there isn't. Not yet. Eventually that might play a role. And so I suspect maybe there's a slight difference here, but I'm not 100% sure that there actually is a slight difference here. There could be a 9 here, an 8 here, and a 6, skipping a 7. And then 5 and 6 and 4 can't form a triplicate. I wouldn't be surprised if you can't ever form a triplicate on these thermometer rolls. Yeah, you probably can't, come to think of it. There's a craziness about this variant of arrows in that the arrows point to an ending point for no real reason. Like, the sum goes here, the digit in this cell doesn't matter. So it just has this little arrow animation, I guess, to subconsciously tell you these are the arrows. Although anybody who was asked to draw an arrow would not draw the base of the arrow to be a circle. If I saw an arrow with a circle on it, I would think it would be some kind of toy foam arrow where it's big and squishy on one end and then the feathers are on the other end. Okay. So if we can't figure out what these are, my next thought would be consider these spots here. Is there a possible scenario whatsoever where 1 is not in any of this? Could this be 2 plus 3, which would be 5, plus 4 to be 9, which would delete 2, 3, and 4 from this possibility? And then this could be a different number. I guess that's probably the wrong question to ask. Is there a possibility that a 5 and a 2 and 3, which still wouldn't use 1, works? No, it doesn't, because 5 and 2 and 3 equals 10. So, yeah, there's no way the number 1 is not being used in this group. And I suspect there's probably some more rulings that could be made on that same thought. Or we can just answer the question I was trying to answer, which is to say this can't be a 1. Is there a scenario here now, since we know 1 has to be in this, where you could skip 2 and reach something? 1 and 3 would be 4 plus 4, or 5 would be 8. 1, 3, 4 eliminates everything, makes this have to be a 2. 1 and 3 plus 5 equals 8, however. So 1 plus 3 plus 5 does not equal 8, it equals 9, but it still works. And then 1 and 3 and 5 would only eliminate the 1 and 3, allowing for a 4 or a 2 to be played here, which means all we know then is that these 3 can't be 1. And I don't think we can play at any other levels. We can eliminate some dumb possibilities here, in that 9 shouldn't be a consideration, obviously. 8 plus 2 plus 1 is far too high. 7 plus 2 plus 1 is too high. 6 plus 2 plus 1 can get us to 9. So yeah, that was overfilled with possibilities. But then what is the next step, really? Well, I guess the next step is probably pretty obvious here. If we're correct that 7 plus 2 plus 1 would be 10, so yeah, we are about that, then this can't be 7, 8, 9. This can't be 7, 8, 9. This can't be 7, 8, 9. That means that this has to be 7, 8, 9, and that is just a triple, and then we don't need the -1 information, so that would have been just a waste of time. And inherently this makes this a 7, 8, 9 triple 2, since this can only be 7, 8, 9, which then means these have to be the outies of 7, 8, 9. So in these spots we know the only possibilities are 3, 4, 5, and 6, which that gives us a quadruple of 3, 4, 5, 6, which may not help us that much. Is there any way that a 7, 8, 9 could be here? No, I don't think we can get to that information yet, because there is just a possibility that a 7 is here, and then like an 8 is here, and a 9 is here, and then it's 6 and 5. Otherwise, it would seem you could just look at the rows and say 7, 8, 9 is here, therefore there's no 7, 8, 9 here, or here, which is not quite the case. There's too much possibilities on these spots, and it seems like there's too much possibilities on these spots. And if I was to fill in like this and say, well, we know that the low numbers kind of have to be down here, that could be helpful, but it probably isn't, because there is just this possibility also that a 6 or 5 or 7 or an 8 or 9 is in this combination. So let's not fill that in yet. So what else can we find out? And see, we're 30 minutes in and I haven't even done what is probably the big time waste here, which is to fill in every single possibility in every single box. But even at that, if this was a puzzle that Cracking the Cryptic in their intelligence on their YouTube page would have solved in 50 minutes, I'm already way off that schedule. I could look, certainly, at the numbers in the areas of influence on the numbers, but there's almost certainly not anything that could happen. Yeah. No, we're close to that working. And there's this odd number out here where if I put, say, big numbers here to do the scenario where this could be a 2 or a 4, I don't think the big numbers here inherently say that this would, one of these two would have to be 2. I think you could still do 4 or 5, and on that scenario that I'm not trying to rehash, where the 2 and 4 were viable as possibilities, which that would then shove the 2 having to be in this corner, which can't be the case. So I guess I do have to rehash that one scenario, but that's just going to be like one possible combination. Is there a way to have a 4 and a 5 here, and then have a 2 either here or here? I think almost certainly there would be. So eliminating 4 and 5s, 6 plus 2 plus 1 would give us 9. Eliminating the 4 and 5s, 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3, 1 plus 2 plus 3 would give us 6, which we know can't work. Eliminating 4 and 5 as a possibility then would be 2 plus 3 plus 6, which is too high. No, there's so many scenarios I'm trying to consider here, and I really just would want to make a note. And see, today's a fresh day. Like, I just woke up. I should be as bright and awake and alert as I'm going to be. Maybe I jumped into the game a little too early, but I just can't keep these many things in my head at the same time. And perhaps that is a fatal flaw with my brain, is that it's in and out with thoughts fairly quickly. But yeah, if this is 4, here's the theory. If this is 4 and this is 5, then this would have to be 6, which means this can't be 6, which we've already determined that to be the case. But then the 4 and 5 would eliminate 4 and 5 from the possibilities here, which would mean that this could be 1, 2, and 3, which would then give you 6, which we've already eliminated, so it can't be the pairing of 1, 2, 3 between these 3. It has to involve the 6. The lowest combination on the 6 here says that 6 plus 2 would be 7, 8, plus 1 would be 9, which would allow 4 and 5 to happen. So I think I probably just wasted a whole bunch of time to realize that all I'm really saying is that there's still plenty of possibilities. Yeah. I thought I was on the right track there. Yeah, I think that was just a complete dead end. Okay, so we know nothing about these, and just to maintain momentum, yeah, we know absolutely nothing about any of these cells. We'll exclude these because those are 1s, we'll exclude these because they're 2s, but as for these specific cells, every single possibility is viable. No. These are the cells where every single possibility is viable. So these are the most useless cells that really shouldn't be filled in. But we're just going to do them all. Anyways, then these cells can't have 2 in them. So then it's just every other possibility available on these cells. These cells here can't have 1 in them, so then it will be every other possibility except for 1. These cells couldn't have 2 in them either, so I could have selected them before. And then this cell and this cell can't have 9 in it, can't have 8 in it, can't have 7 in it, but it could have, well, nope, it just can't have 9 in it, can it? Because it could be an 8-1 in that case. I was about to make a big mistake there. So we can fill this in, and honestly, I guess that didn't take that much time. That was probably only 3 minutes. And all we can say here is that if the base pair is 1, 2, that gets you to 3. So 6 would be the lowest, the highest number you could have in this combination. So looking at that, having everything filled in, we could do classic Sudoku rules and determine something like 1, if it can't be here, has to be here because it can't be here. So these 2 can't be 1. I think that was probably where we should have gone. And that was probably something we should have just seen. I think that really highlights the difference between being on the right track and knowing how to solve a Sudoku puzzle, and then having to just brute force mark every single possibility to work your way through it. Now, I think that's all we can do on the one. Then if we look at 2s, then I guess this can't be a 2. But do we in any way stop any of these from being a 2? No. And so I imagine nothing else can be done. 3s. We can't have a 3 in this spot, so we could elevate to say that one of these has to be a 3. I don't know if that's going to be particularly helpful. And then 4s. Don't really know anything from 4s. 5s. Don't know anything from 5s. 6s. I imagine this is going to be the case with all the larger numbers. Like this 7, 8, 9 should do something. If we know the 7, 8, 9 has to be here, we know that once there's a 7 here, that would eliminate all the possibilities of this, anything else being a 7, and it would eliminate the possibility here. So then whatever this is has to be this. So maybe they're paired in that way every case. And so if this was 7, this would be 7, and this would be 7, which probably means there's no scenario where this could be 7. But no, there is, because then if this was 8, that would eliminate all these 8s. Let's look at 8s. Now, if this was 8, that would eliminate all these 8s, make this have to be 8 again. So is this a Y-wing? I never really figured out what Y-wings were. If this was an 8, then this would have to be an 8, eliminating that, making that an 8. That's still fine. Then let's look at 9. If this is a 9, it eliminates all of these 9s, makes this a 9, and makes that a 9. So we don't know what these are, but we do know these are connected. So connected pairs, I'll use the blue on. And honestly, I guess I probably don't need the green at all for that triple. If I am going to do a triple in any way, it should be here. That would make more sense, but even that probably is not necessary because we've already done everything we can do and labeled all the possibilities. So it's much more important to look at that. Of course, this blue now really makes me want to look at that, so not too much. So let's just make it green instead. These are weirdly though the same digit and not just shooting for a 7-8 pair or something that would connect. And so it feels like there should be a completely different kind of labeling that I could put here, like a little lock. And you can't spell things out to type in notes, like, unless there was some kind of, well, you can't move the numbers around in any order. They're always from 1 to 9 ascending. And so Even if there was like some complicated, and you can't repeat numbers either, so you can't just like 888 to indicate that they're the same. And I don't think you can derive anything else from that information. It doesn't inherently mean that a 9 has to be here. Because the 9 could be here, then this could be 8, and this could be 8. And then a 9 could be here, and a 9 could be like down here. Is it possible that there's some other triple or something that locks in things? You have like 4 places where a 7 could be. That doesn't mean much. If there was supposed to be like a quadruple here, we just don't have anything locked down on the columns or the rows or the boxes that there's just really no way you're gonna basic Sudoku your way through this. I am noticing something about the 9s though. In this box here, there cannot be a 9. So theoretically, one of these has to be a 9. That gets the possibilities down. If we could eliminate a 9 in this column or a 9 in this row, could we? Then no, we can turn the corner, I guess. If we eliminate 9s in this row, then we know the 9 is in one of 2 spots here, and then that turns the corner and eliminates all the 9s over here. That being said, I don't think we're quite to that point yet. You could almost do the same thing with like 7s, it feels like, where if a 7 couldn't be here, then a 7 couldn't be here, a 7 couldn't be here. So if you eliminate the 7 in this spot, then the only spots for 7s would be here and here. And so if you eliminate this 7 by finding a 7 in this column or this row, then that turns the corner and lets you go either vertically or horizontally when you started the opposite direction, or the 90 degrees of that direction, not really the opposite of the direction. There's probably a better way to say that. But yeah, specifically 9s. Don't think there's anything more you can do. Specifically 8s. Don't see anything. Specifically 7s. Don't see you can do anything. 6s. Let's go back to the lower numbers now. Is it possible that a cross pair of 3s, since well, 4s, I guess, in this case. If a 4 can be here, here, or here, or here, is there possibly a scenario where 4 is not in any of these spots? Can this be 4, then 5, then 6, and this be 1 and 2 and 4? Absolutely. Totally possible. So yeah, I'm just not seeing a solution here. I just can't imagine anything in this box is helpful at all, or will ever be helpful. This is probably the absolute last box you would solve just by basic Sudoku. So your eyes are drawn in this corner, in these boxes. Smart int time. Just go ahead and click it quick at 54 minutes in. Yeah. And see, I'm trying to evaluate as best as I can what is making it take so long to solve these puzzles. And it does seem like it is just a general slowness. Now, I am also trying to commentate and talk, and so that's probably making me at least twice as slow as I normally would be if I was just sitting in silence playing the game, which Cracking the Cryptic doesn't really sit in silence either. He commentates pretty well also, so I can't really do any criticism there for his YouTube channel. Like, there definitely are gamers and content creators out there that do sit in silence or just go yeah, every minute or so and add nothing creative at all to the commentary. But honestly, those kind of low effort, like freebooting is what it used to be called, or at least that was one problem that content creators had. Those kind of low effort content creators have probably shifted on to just straight up watching other people's videos, and not even playing video games in the first place, or just straight up playing video games and fully abandoning any kind of fair use defense of commentary or criticism. Which there is definitely a copyright argument to be made that because video games uniquely are so interactive that the player is creating the experience, that very little of video games might actually be copyrightable in the same way, because it's not a fixed work as much. It's an interactive simulation that starts with fixed works but then places them slightly differently. Even if you're just watching a cutscene, arguably the settings you picked when you ran a game changes how the cutscene might look. There is no unless it's a pre-rendered cutscene. But if it's an in-game cutscene and you have a costume on, then that is not fixed. It's not the same as somebody else who saw that in-game cutscene without that costume on. I doubt, though, the United States government and their definition of copyright and fair use would go that far to say all video games are so interactive that even just the act of playing and streaming yourself playing is considered fair use. It probably should be that way if money and capitalism didn't get involved at all. But then if money and capitalism wasn't involved, nobody would really care that much about copyright in the first place, since copyright really only does protect somebody from being the first and exclusive party, at least originally, until it goes into public domain, that can sell or choose not to sell, which the choose not to sell is also a major problem for society. Yeah, I've got nothing. I'm rambling here about copyright law, instead of playing this game. Let's just handwritten hint number 1. In box 2, row 1, column 1, 2, and 3, these numbers must appear in row 2, column 3, and 4. No, row 2, column 5, and row 3, column 4, and 6. And I mislabeled it. It's not those. It's those. Let me just reread this, because I think this is a big problem too, is that the way these spots are labeled is terrible. Really, I think when a handwritten hint happens, you probably should have a grid. And yes, you're calling things row 1, column 1, 2, and 3, but really a proper spreadsheet grid, and you'll see this in any spreadsheet software like Google Sheets or Excel. The columns are always lettered. It's A through Z, then AA through ZZ, then AAA through ZZZ if you are making a massive amount of columns. And then the rows are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to about 10,000 before you start running into really some processing problems for most Google Sheets or Excel sheets. And then, frankly, if you're getting anywhere close to even using 1,000 entrants in an Excel sheet, you're probably doing something that would be better off being done in a database. In any ways, like Excel is really designed for like assistants, secretaries to use, and accountants that aren't handling with that much information. But yeah, there should be a grid that pops up. There should be a button where you could turn a grid on and off. It should be letters. Letters being added as the columns would make this so much better. In contrast, instead of saying in box 2, which in box 2 is not even where it's referencing, row 1, column 1/2/3 would be written much easier as saying A1, 2, and 3. You could get it down to 4 characters instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 characters. That slight tweak would make it so much better, and it pretty much reduces a lot of chance of misreading, dyslexia happening here, because a number would always be a row, just inherently would be a row, and a letter would always be a column. And on that, then you should probably, specifically for Sudoku, not call the boxes by numbers either. You should instead have a symbol system for each box that could appear as a guide. And that could just be like, probably wouldn't want to do diamond, spade, heart, because that would only give you 4. So you'd need 9 symbols that are fairly easy to recognize from each other. You could do shapes, but you wouldn't want a square, so you could have something that is like a triangle. You're probably best, though, going with a compass layout. And so instead of calling this the box number 2. This should be called the north box. This should be called the northeast box, the northwest box, the center box, the east box, the west box, the south box, the southeast box, and the southwest box. That's probably how it should be referenced. And then you write out north, or you put a symbol of an arrow upward. Yeah, you could also do symbols instead of having the compass analogy, particularly in modern times when people don't use compasses. But yeah, arrow up, arrow down, dead center with a circle to reference that box, arrow right. Arrows in particular, though, might be a little problematic, because if you had an arrow here as a background image, as a reference, then people would think that this number is supposed to point to that. So the compass analogy probably is still your best bet. You could use almost any scale if you wanted to. It would just be kind of weird if you called this like the January, February, March, April, June, July, September, October, December, whatever boxes you wanted to call it. That would be a way of labeling it too, but I don't see why you would compare two really inconsistent things from that. Or compass makes a lot of sense. Anyways, I'm rambling again, and we're trying to do this one hint. So it says that in box row 1, column 1, 2, and 3, these numbers cannot appear here. Therefore, they must appear in these 2 rows, which that would be basic Sudoku. But because these numbers are here, that limits these 3 numbers from being removed. So I guess the thing to do is mark these and say these are all connected. Alright. It seems like all the coloring we're going to do today is around being connected and not really being pairs that alternate, like a 7-8 pair. It's going to be more, it's connected, and thus this is, if this is a 7, this is a 7. At row 1, column 3's, now it's saying consider this cell, row 1, column 3, minimal value is 4. The arrow in box 2 must contain a 4 or 5. I'm not 100% following the logic here, but I guess maybe what it's saying here is that this number, if it was a 4, would mean that 4 would have to be here, here, or here, which the 4 could be here. But then if it was a 5, 5 would, if the 4 was here, then and the 4 was here, then the 5 would have to be here. Because of what reason? Why could this not be 6-2? Or 6-3? And see, this is the major problem here, is that if I cannot wrap my mind around what this is saying in hint 1, this is going to be the linchpin to probably solving the rest of the puzzle, and so I will just be lost from this point. I mean, I believe what it's saying, definitely, that this has to be a 4-5, but I don't see why that would be the case. Why can this be 4? Why would, if this is 4 and this is 4, make it where one of these has to be 5? Well, let's evaluate the entire box then. If this is 4, it eliminates that. And then it means a 4 has to be in one of these, which then means a 4 can't be here. So then if a 4 can't be here, 1, 2, or 3 is a possibility. A 4 can't be here. So it might be more simpler than that. If this is 4, this has to be 3, this has to be 2, this has to be 1. Eliminating 1 through 4 from those possibilities, or 1, 2, 3 from those possibilities, means this has to be 4 and this has to be 5, which would be our 4-5, because a 5-6 would be too big of a number. Okay, I'm getting it. I was just looking at the wrong things. Now, the question though, before I'm 100% certain on this, and maybe that's why this takes too long, is that I'm really just trying to make sure I'm certain. There's a lot of ways people can think where they're right the 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time, but there is that one exception that just breaks the rule. If this was 5, then could this skip 4 and be 3, 2, 1? Yes. And then 3, 2, 1 would eliminate everything except for 4, which would also make this a 4, 4, 5 pair. So that's still correct. If this was a 5 though, and then this was 4, 3, 2, then 4, 3, 2 would be removed, and it would make a 1 as a possibility. Well, let's see. 5, 4, 3, 2 equals 9. 4, 3, 2, 1 plus 5, which would get to 6, and we can't get to 6 in that scenario. We've already determined that. So then I really want to ask the question about 6 or 7. And so let's look at 6. If this was 6, then 5, 4, 3. That would be a scenario that stops this from being a 4, 5. The 6 then can't be. Now 5, 4, 3 being eliminated gives you a 2 and a 1 being added to possibly a 6, a 7, or 9, 8 or 9. Not 9, but so 6, 5, 4, 3. Makes this be a 1 or a 2 or a 7 or an 8 as possibilities. Yeah, I don't get it. I think that scenario works. I think that scenario works just fine. 6, 7, and 8 would be the possibilities here. So I think, though, if I evaluate it further, it's probably is where this falls apart. If this is 6 and this is 5 and this is 4 and this is 3, then that eliminates 5, 4, 3 here, leaving you with a 1, a 2, a 7, and an 8. That then you have to squeeze that 1 and 2 and 7 and 8, those 4 digits, into 3 spots. And I have just never really thought on that level. And so that's probably something I'm not, that's probably just a huge blind spot in my part, to have to evaluate how many possible solutions would be left. Yeah. I need to eliminate these 3 here down to 3 possibilities, and exactly 3 possibilities for it to be the right scenario. And a 6 and a 5, a 4 and a 3 here does not do that. A 7, a 6, a 5, and a 4 would leave 1, 2, 3, and 8 together. So it's only when you get to 5, 4, 3, 2 does that leave you 1 and a 6. No. 5 here, 4 here, 3 here, 2 here. Should then 3, 4, 3, 2 should eliminate everything except for 1, then 5, 6, 7, 8, which that's a whole bunch of options, but a lot of these options are not valid then, because 1 and 5 is not going to make 7. 2 and 8 wouldn't work, but 2 and 7 wouldn't work. So its possible combinations need to be down to 3. Alright, and I'm just going to stop there. Like, my thinking here is I believe him. I believe this hint that this is a 4-5, but I am honestly 92%, only 92% there as far as understanding why that is the case. Like, there's still some shakiness here, and there's still some weirdness here, and so we'll take that jump, and then I'm gonna pause this video and take a break, and then forget everything that we've done to this point. But I think we're in a good point to take a break, because the next step seems pretty obvious. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, the next step after almost completely following this first handwritten hint that tells us this must be 4-5, we believe them on that. That then tells you that in all of these other spots that are selected, 4 and 5 are not viable options. It eliminates all the other ones from being candidates, which then severely reduces what this can be. This could be 7, 6, 3 or 2, or then 2 or 1. but it can't be 4, 3, and it can be 4, 3, 2, 1. If we can eliminate this 6, then that would help. And I think there is a point to this that does say something here, that there's very possibly no scenario here where this number can be 3. Because the 4 has been removed here, yeah, we can just do, by that basic logic, we now know this is 1 or 2. Now that doesn't inherently make any more pairs, nor do I think that would inherently mean that we would be changing any rows or columns because of the 3, this new setup. But I do think it changes this. We said that we know that number 3 had to be in these 6 spots, and we marked that very early, probably very prematurely. In the scenario where this was 7, 6, 5, 4, or 3, it kind of doesn't matter. If this is 3, then this is going to be 2, this is going to be 1, then these cannot be 3. In the opposite scenario, if this is 7, or 7 would only be the real options here. In fact, there are some missing options now that we can remove, and that 5 cannot, well, 5 can still be it, because it doesn't have to go by 1 increment, does it? So it could be 5, then 3, could be 6, then 3, could be 7, then 3. So I almost made a mistake there. But if in the scenario, if this was 7 and this was 6, which that is the only way that would work, then we could go 7, 6, 2, 1, and then 3 still could be in this spot. We do probably have a good indication that 1, 2 would be in this column. But yeah. Yeah, I kind of have this instinct, and this will just drag the whole experience on longer and longer, to just check the areas of influence once again and try and see if something's changed before I ask for the next hint. But I think since the floodgates have been opened with the first handwritten hint, we are definitely very likely to just go forward and do the next hint. No, there is one more thing now that I look at it, and that may be what really is happening here as I'm clicking through the numbers, is I'm just giving myself time to think, which obviously I need. This has to be a 9 now. We didn't fully understand why this became a 4-5, but the second this did become a 4-5, we didn't know this has to be a 9, which then the pairing and weirdness around that means that is a 9 also, which means that is a 9 also, and this probably doesn't, by basic Sudoku, solve anything else, but it does set us up for other solutions almost certainly. 7, 8 here as a pair would have eliminated all the other 7, 8s. So we don't need that pairing anymore. Let's pair these two instead and remove that marking. So what was the next step there? What I wanted to evaluate was these spots here, and what combinations we can get to. Since we know 7 and 8 are not available, can there possibly be a scenario where you have 6 plus 2 plus 1 to get to 9? Yes. And then that would eliminate this 2, and I don't think it eliminates much else. We did something, and I can't remember what it was, to determine that this can't be a 1. I don't know if that really is right. Oh, well, there has to be a 1 here at this point. So we can elevate that. So 6 plus 2 plus 1, as long as the 1 is here or here, still is viable. 5 plus 2 plus 1 might not be viable though, but 5 plus 3 plus 1 would be still viable. We know 1 is going to be in this combination. 4 plus 3 may not be viable though. So maybe we can eliminate the 4s, and that would give us only a couple positions. We also need to redo this one. 4 plus 3 would be 7. Plus 2 would be 8, 9. So 4 is still viable. So yeah, I don't think anything has changed here. Not yet, at least. But if 2 is the minimum number here because 1 can't be here because of that, then this can't be 2. This could go 2, 3, and then that means this can't be 3. Which that gets it to slightly more manageable. Whenever I see 3 possible options, it feels like I'm on the right track. When I see way over 3 possible combinations, I know I've filled in boxes for no good reason. Okay. This wasn't going to be 9 anyways. And if 9 is going to not be here, which that eliminated this as a possibility of 9. Let's evaluate that. Is that change anything? 6s now, I guess, cannot be involved. Could it be 5 plus 2 plus 3? No. That wouldn't be the right way to go anyways. It would have to be 5 plus 2 plus 1 to get to 8. 8 is viable. 6 plus 2 plus 1 would have been 9. So we are just getting rid of 6s, which I imagine there's plenty of places where 6s still could be in this box. I want to look at 9s though. If 9 could be here, or 9 could be here in either of these columns. So that doesn't help me. And it does feel like there's a possibility that in a row or column there's one number that can only be that one number. we would need a 4 or 5 pair somewhere down here for that to work. Because if this was 4, this still could be 3 or 5. And then this would be 5, which would eliminate nothing. If this was 4, it would eliminate this 4. And then this would be 5, which would still allow several options. Let me, yeah, this still can be 2 and that still can be 3. Did the 9 here possibly eliminate something? Not enough. It wouldn't have eliminated a number here. So let's go to the next handwritten note. I've found a few things. I wouldn't be surprised if the next handwritten note is something I've already found, but I'm not on track as to what the next solution would be or where to look for the next solution. The 9 in row 4, column 3 can be placed in box 5 and row 5. Okay. Then row 4, column 4 and 5 must be a 7-8. That's exactly what we just did. And row 1, column 2 and 3 must be a 5-4. How? Like we're constantly running into these handwritten notes, and that last sentence just defying all logic as to why is it that way. Like it doesn't make any sense at all as far as why it would just be that way instead of some other possibilities. Yeah. So the sentence here is these two must be 7-8. Okay. Which, let's assume these two are 7-8. That doesn't inherently remove a 7-8 from this spot. It does mean that if this was 3, this would be 5, and this would be 6. But if this was 6, this could be 7, and this could be 8. So it's something eliminating the 8 option here. Is something eliminating 7, 8, 9 as an option in this one spot. To make this 6, to make this 5. No, they're saying it's 5-4. Even the way this is written doesn't make sense because it's saying a 5-4 pair. You can't have a 5-4 pair here. There's no way this could be a 4. And that's the problem with just doing slashes and slashes meaning multiple things. Even the same sentence. Row 1, column 2/3 means 2 and 3. Must be 5/4, so 2, 5 and 4. But let's look at the 7s and see if we can figure out the reason why that would be the case. What is preventing this from being a 7. We had earlier determined that these 3 numbers have to be here in these 3 combinations. Maybe we're taking that logic backwards now and saying, well, then you must have a 5-4 involved, and then this could be 7, 8, or 9, and this could be 7, 8, or 9. But since you can't have a 5 and a 4 here, I guess that's the logic. I don't see. I wouldn't have connected it to that spot though. Like, much easier to have connected that jump to this conclusion that this must be a 4 or 5. Therefore, this must be a bigger number than 4 or 5. And since 4 or 5 can't be here, this has to be 4 or 5. So my comprehension, I think, is going down, and I would say I'm only 75% confident as to understanding why that is there. And I definitely feel like there would have never been a case where I would have figured that out. Okay. So this 4, we know now there's a 5-4 pair somewhere in here, and it eliminates that as a possibility, which probably did eliminate something here as a possibility. That this could have been 2, 3, 4. So from that, let's get rid of, if this is supposed to be bigger, does eliminating a 4 change anything here on this side? No, but this can't be a 4, so that can't be a 5, so it eliminates that. And then this one can't be a 5 here, so that probably doesn't change anything in that instance. A 5 could be here, it still could be a 6. A 6 could be here, it still could be a 7. A 2 could be here, a 3 could be here, a 5 could be here. So I don't think that eliminates anything. And then the 5s indicate there should be a 5 somewhere. If there can't be a 5 here, we should consider this arrow and the summing now. But I imagine if you can do 1, 2, or 3, then that still opens you to doing like 1 and 2 to get to 3, and it probably leaves you open completely to do any number up to 9, because you can do 1 and 8 to 9. So I imagine that is just a small chink in the armor of what this solution is. Okay. And we can look around and try and do basic Sudoku stuff, but I seriously doubt we're ever going to use this in this puzzle. If we had more information, we might be able to figure out where the rows are for 4s and 5s. But yeah, it does seem like we're pretty much just missing information. Where my attention is drawn here would be the... Still can't do anything with the 9s? Not quite yet. This 5 and 4 here eliminates 5 and 4 from being in that spot. Still really just leaving 5 and 4 capable of being in any of these spots. So, yeah. I think we have to go to handwritten hint 3 next. The arrow in box 5 cannot have a 6, or row 6, column 4 would be 3, clashing with row 2, column 4. I need to mark all of these because I'm looking at totally the wrong things. I can tell already. The arrow here, that arrow cannot have a 6 because row 6, column 4 here would be 3. Because to get to 6 you would need a 1, which would have to be one of these, and then you would need a 3 here, and then you would need a 2. And why can I not have a 2 here? That's not what I meant to do. Why can I not have a 2 here? If I put a 2 here, you eliminate these two possibilities of a 2 being there. I guess we know here that we're gonna trust this, that 1, 2, 3 is not viable in this spot. It could only be 6, 7, 8, or 9, and it can't be 9. I don't think that really affects anything. If a 2 was here, maybe it makes a 3-4 pair here that's impossible. I don't know. Doesn't seem like that's impossible. 2 here would make this a 3, which could still make this be a 1 or 2. 2 here would eliminate this column, which would allow a 2 to be here, or a 2 to be here. A 2 here, eliminating the 2 here and the 2 here doesn't matter. So I'm confused. Says the arrow, which is this here, cannot have a 6, or row 6, column 4 here. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. This one can't have a 6, or then this would be 3, because this would be 6 plus 2 plus 1, that would make that 3. If this was 3, that would clash with row 2, column 4. Which, why does it clash with that? Why can this... Oh, wait a minute. If we've already determined this is 3 or 4, then we know that this has to be a 3. So we should have just locked that in. Okay. That means that none of these are 6s now that I follow that logic, so that means that is 6. Okay. Which then only gives you enough room for a 7 and an 8 in that spot. And I think that may make this puzzle just way more solvable now. The lower numbers probably not so much, but I think we've got some cross-pollination happening with 7 and 8 and possibly even 6s that we'll see. And probably haven't done anything to 4 or 5s, 2s, 3s, or 1s. These lower digits very likely to just fall into place. So yeah, you have a 6 here, you have a 6 here, then that means these are not 6. You have a 7 eliminating this. That means these two have to be a 7, so we can elevate that. 8 eliminating possibilities here. If this is a 3, this is also a 2, and this is also a 1, by the way. So elevate these, so we now know this is actually a 7-8 pair. My stomach is growling a lot today. I think maybe there's something about Sudoku that's causing that. Maybe it's just thinking too hard or thinking too much. Maybe I've just had a bad run. Alright, yeah, let's go ahead and set this as a 2. And then set this as a 1. That inherently means this has to be a 1 because we needed it to be. And then the pair options on these two should be fairly limited. This could be 5 plus 3 to get to 8. Could be 2 plus 5. It can't be 2 plus 5, so that one can't be a 2. 3 plus 5 works to 8. 5 plus 3 works to 8. 4 to 4 doesn't work, so 4 is out, and 4 is out there, making that a 3-5 pair, which means now that has to be 4. And test that just to make sure, and then that has to be 2, which means that has to be 5, which means that has to be 4, which then means this has to be 3, and that has to be 5. I would prefer if there was a way that the color highlights could turn off once you've locked in the numbers. But I could also see why people would want to leave the coloring in as an option. I think most people though would like to lose the color highlights. So in this, now we have a 7/8 pair between these two. Yeah, we may have had this 7/8 pair a while ago, honestly. Which I think that's probably wrong, because if I follow this as a 7/8 pair, that eliminates all possibilities here. So I either have to be wrong about the possibilities that were here, and I don't know how I could be wrong. We know it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. We've got all of those locked in. So the options are 6 or 9 being in this spot. And this spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is blocked. 9 is blocked. 7, 8. 7, 8 seem to have to be the truth, which would eliminate 7 and 8 there, making that a 6/9 pair, and would eliminate the 7/8s here, leaving me with no option at all. So I must have done some math wrong. But I found it mostly on my own effort. We can, I suppose, if we're still following the logic that these have to match this, we can then, I guess, eliminate 6 and 9 as a possibility in that spot too. And then we can try to be pretty and highlight pairs. I wonder if this isn't supposed to just be a 2, 3, 4 triple, but there's no way that could be the case. It would be kind of lovely, and not in a great way, but it would be nice to find a confirmed mistake in one of these puzzles, so I can just 100% blame the game for being unpolished. Like, we've seen mistakes in handwritten hints already, but it would be nice to say there's just absolutely no solution, or there's an actual bug in the app, not so much a bug in the specific Sudoku puzzle. Although it would be fairly hard to notice the difference. Let's see. A 1 must be here. And see if we can see anything else that would be helpful. A 1 must be here. So these can't be 1s. And these are then elevated to 1s. So we're working our way to a hidden triple. I'm gonna learn to use these phrases, but I'm not gonna potentially actually use the phrases correctly. So I may call something a hidden triple, and that may mean something completely different. 2 has to be in this column somewhere, and we can pretty well guarantee that this isn't a 2. 2, 3, 6. There's a full triple here, which I'm running out of things to color in with. And I've never been using this color because it's way too dark. But this 236 means that this has to be a 4. And then that means this is a 3-5 pair. I wonder if maybe there's a better system to coloring things in which you put colors opposite of each other. So if there's a orange here, there should be an orange. If there's an orange in box 3, there should be an orange in box 6 if you're going to color in a pair. 3-5 pairs would remove the 5s as a possibility. Which then that makes a naked single in the fact that the only place a 5 could be would be here. So we can fill that in. I think I may be getting this finally. And then if it's a case that the number is the smallest number at the bulb on the thermometer and it goes up, which it is in that case, then this can be no longer 3. It's either 6 or 7, 6, 7, 8, or 7, 8, 9. So we're reducing the possibilities there. One of these two have to be a 6. There. Let's see, we were looking at 2s. And then 3s here. Not be marked as a possibility. 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3, 5 here, 3 here, 3 here, and guaranteed 3 here. Which, if you have 2 things and they have to be both 2 and 3, then we can just remove the 4 and call that a 2-3 pair. And if that is the case, that this is 1, 2, 3, no 4 seems to be available, then 5, 6, then 7, 8, then 9, this has to be a 4. So let's set that. And then get rid of that. And set that pair, colorize it. Now, 4 inherently can only be done one way on this arrow, so we really are zigzagging quite a bit. A lot of overlapping, solving the Sudoku. It could only be 1, 2, and 3. Oh, that would get us to 6. What are the rules? We're at hint 3. I think we've done hint 3. An arrow. The numbers along the shaft of each arrow must sum up to the number at the base. Oh, I see what's confusing me here. Is this crosses over this spot. So this is going to be 1. Then one of these is going to be 1 again. And then one of these is going to be 2. And that's how you're going to get 4. Where most of the time the arrows aren't crossing over through an entire 3 different boxes. The basic part of this is that 4 obviously cannot sum to 4. So this has to be 1. That makes another pair here if it needs to be highlighted. We can, I imagine, also go ahead and eliminate the 3s and 4s. There weren't any 4s. 1 3 is not going to work either. This is a 1-2 pair, and we'll mark it that way. That eliminates in this spot 1 and 2. Which probably won't help too much. Eliminates in this spot 1 and 2. It is weirdly getting us close to having a quadruple, both with these 2 pieces and these 2 pieces of numbers. Still not sure, though. It seems like we may hit a speed bump and have to evaluate some more situations or figure out some other trick. I guess now, if 2 can't be here, it has to be here, then these 2 can't be 2. And then these 2 have to be 2. And then this 1-2 pair may very well affect these numbers. The 2s in this section, though, is still very much a mess. If there is a 2 here, then this would have to be 1. Then this would have to be 2. Either way, that does imply that there cannot be a 2 in these 2 sections. And if there was a 3 here, then this could still be a 2. And this could still be a 1, but then this would have to be a 2, which then would make this a 1 and make this a 2. Also eliminating these possibilities. So both possible options eliminate 2 as a possibility, which means these 2 have to be 2. And now we're just getting back to old-fashioned classic Sudoku. We could say that these 2 have to be 4. Still not sure that that gives us a 4-9 pair, though. Because this could still be a 9. But yeah, the puzzle will collapse fairly quickly. These 2 have to be a 5. These 2 have to be a 5. These 3, one of them have to be a 5. And 6-wise, meaning this is a 2, 3, 6 pair that should be highlighted anyways. Yeah. I guess these can't be 6s. So we'll remove those as possibilities. But yeah, there's not much else we can do. The 7-8 pair has to be a 7, which doesn't really change much. It's just no 7 in this spot at all, locked in. Then 8s. If we figure out what this 8 is, it will mean this has to be a 7. Or if we figure out this is a 7, then this would have to be an 8. Which, are both of those scenarios acceptable? Can this be a 7 and this be a 7 and this be an 8? Yes. Can this be an 8 and this be an 8 and this be a 7? Yes. So it's one of two possibilities for each of those 3 spots. And I guess that probably is a Y-wing scenario. Or, although I'm still not sure really what a Y-wing is. Or how you determine there is a Y-wing on the board. 8s. There might be something here where if this was an 8, then this would be an 8. And that would mean these have to be an 8. And then, so if this is an 8, then these can't be an 8 and that can't be an 8. So one of those two have to be an 8. If this was a 7 and this was a 7, then that can't be an 8. So that would eliminate these two from being 8. So there is probably a case that these two can't be 8s. We can start with that. If this was a 7 and this was a 7 and then this was an 8, then it would come down to an 8 being here and then an 8 being here or here or here. So all I think I could have eliminated was that, but at least that's a start. And then 9s. We were making some progress with 9s early, but I wouldn't be surprised if pretty much all progress has halted now. Yeah, a lot of this does just seem deadlocked. And at 127 minutes into this puzzle, is it worth it to really go through all of the numbers again? One of the beautiful things that you can say, or at least claim as a YouTube content creator, is that you can say, well, I'm doing something for the benefit of the audience, and that allows you to do things a little bit slower, or things that are maybe a little bit dumber or more silly. You don't inherently, if you're criticizing a game or just covering a game or playing a game, you don't inherently have to just play for yourself. Right. Let's see if there's a smart hint here that helps. In box 1, 2 can only go in row 2. Okay. Which then removes 2 as a candidate from row 2, column 7 and 8. which we've already done that. In box 1, 3 can only go in row 3, which removes 3 from being a candidate. And in row 3, 7, 8, and 9, which we've done that. In box 1, 1 can only go as a candidate in row 3, which means 1, which removes 1 in row 3, column 7 and 8. Or you've done that. And that gives you a hidden pair, a 1-2 pair. Where is that? Row 1, column 7. 1-2 pair here, and row 1, column 8, which removes all other candidates from the cells. The hidden pair in a box. I think this is one of the logical steps I'm not grasping. So, throughout several different steps, the processes of elimination, these two boxes were labeled as must having a 1 and must having a 2. I'm guessing that it's probably true that in any individual box you would never be able to find another scenario where any of the other cells must have a 1 and must have a 2. That you wouldn't have a triplicate that was 1, 2, and maybe 3. But let's say maybe that was the case. We know 1 has to be up here and it can't be here, so that would have eliminated all the other possibilities. But this one eliminates all of these possibilities, and then these cannot be 1 for some other reason that I don't immediately see. I see why this wouldn't be a 1, but I don't immediately see why these two can't be 1. But obviously I did mark it that way at some point. So I guess the question though to ask, however we got here, it wasn't the upper markings of the 1, 2 that makes this a 1-2 pair as much as it's the fact of the lower markings being the only place where a 1-2 could happen. Yeah, this must be 1, this must be 2, but there is a 3 here that excludes this from that. Okay, that gives us a 1-2 pair. Then that means this is, I'm just going to move forward. Maybe I didn't fully grasp all of that, but it doesn't matter. It gives us a 3 here. And then the next question I think would come down to, did that take us anywhere further? I bet it didn't. Like this 3 eliminates just the possibility of a 3 here, which then makes us 5, 6, and the numbers get bigger on a thermometer, so 3 and 4 can't be here, and 5 can't be here, which makes that a 6, 7, which then 4, and 5 and 6, which makes that an 8, 9. So if I look at this, there's only one place for a 4, and the 5 could be in several different places, so that's something not to consider. A 6 can be in 2 places. This is going to be weird. 6 can be here, and 6 can be here. But if 6 is here, no, let's undo that. That's not going to be helpful information. 7s can be in places, and 8s can be in places. But we know for a fact 4 has to be here, in this spot, which then removes 4 from that spot. Okay. Same logic applies here. 3 can only be in that spot, which would eliminate 3 from those spots, which I guess then eliminates 1s and 3s from that spot. 5 can be in several places though. 6 can be in several places. 7 can be in several places, and 9 can be in several places. Now arrows have to add together, and so there's no way a 5 and a 6 here add together. In fact, these just have to be wrong about the information that's in them, which means this whole box could be wrong. Yeah. This number yeah, I guess the question is, why can't there be a 3 here? Or a 2? Or a 1? At least a 3, 1. Let's start all over again. And we'll do by basic Sudoku rules. All the numbers, I think it could be 1, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Can't be 4 because of that. 5, and 6, 7, but not 9. 8, but not 9. Okay. Then let's fill in all the possibilities that I think could be in this spot. 1, 2, 3, but not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but not 9. And then let's fill in this spot. And let's just assume that it can't be 1 or 2, because 1 plus 2 would be 3. So it could be 3, it can't be 4, can't be 5, could be 6, could be 7, could be 8, and could be 9. So rebuilding from that spot. Hopefully that has corrected a mistake in the pencil marking. But we still have a lot of pairs going on here. A lot of pairing happening. instead of final solutions. And we can't do another smart hint to address that. And basic Sudoku probably isn't going to help. Yeah. It does seem like we're probably at least at the 2/3 mark as far as being completed with this puzzle. I would struggle to suspect that it was more than that. We could look, we made some changes here so we could look. Numbers must increase as they move along the bulb. So could this really be a 7 at this point? No. Could be a 6, 7, and 8. It could be a 5, a 6, but not a 7, because of this 7, then it could be an 8 or 9. That does make this a 5, 6, and that potentially could be a 5, 6 pair up here, but not yet. So let's read the handwritten hints. We had done number 3. Let's read number 4. A 6-9 form a pair in box 2. Okay, that would be these two. Or 7-8 appear in column 6. That would be these two. So then row 9, column 6 here. And is either a 4 or a 5. And row 6, column 9 must be 1. We did that. 1 must be on the arrow in box 5, which we... No, wait. 1 must be on the arrow in box 5. Here. This arrow. Oh, by basic Sudoku. This being 1 makes this 1, which must now contain 1, 3, 5, which we did get to that point, 1, 3, 5. Once 3 is in row 9, column 7 and 8, row 9, column 6 is 4. Is there some way to be known for certain where the 3 is? Not with the information I've pencil marked. I know one of these is correct. And they seem to be writing the hint like they're saying yes, one of these is correct. And then that makes that 4. It also makes row 6, column 1, a 5. A 6, 7, 8, 9 is quadruple is formed in row 7, column 2, row 8, column 3, and row 9, column 1 and 4. Wow. So I don't think I ever would have seen this. The possibility here is somehow this is a quadruple, where this can be 6, 7, this can be 6, 7, 8, this can be 6, 7, 9, which that gives you this diagonal triple, which this 6, 7, and 9 affects the possibilities here. And this would be 6, 7, and 9 because of this 3 here. So that's a weird quadruple. And I guess this teaches me something about quadruples, in that if you can get two things to match perfectly, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then a third thing to match 3 of the 4 things, would this be a triple if this was different? Where it was 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9. It seems to me like there's a lot of possibilities for other places where 6, 7, or 8 individually could appear. And the double. Do you need inherently this 6, 7 to start this quadruple? Do you need it to say, in this cell this could be 6, which would eliminate 6 from the rest of these, and so then if this was 6, this would be a 7, 8, and then this would be 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, and then if this was 7, then this would be 8, 9, 8, 9 to make a 8, 9, 8, 9 pair. Ah, yes. It chips away at it. And that's in every scenario. If this was a 7, that would make this a 6, 8. And then if this was a 6 or an 8, then that would get rid of the other to leave a pair regardless. Which in a crazy way does mean that almost completely across the board, not even paying attention to the fact that it's crossing over lines here, if you can find 9 boxes on a Sudoku that have all of the 9 numbers, and then one just has 1 number or 2 numbers, and then the next one has 3, and the next one has 4, and the next one has 5, next one has 6, next one has 7, next one has 8, and then the final one has 9. You could make a 9-tier combo, septuple, I guess might be what it's called. Now, inherently, I think this makes an odd man out scenario because you're outside of the box. So, if this was 6 and this was 7, and then this was 8 and this was 9, it would eliminate 8s from being here, but it wouldn't eliminate 8s from being here, here, or here. So I'm not sure what specifically in this quadruple matters. So I'm still going to have to just go to the next handwritten hint. The possibilities for row 9 make row 9, column 2 and 3. So we're now looking at these, and this is the last handwritten hint, and I definitely wasn't expecting that. The possibilities here make 6 impossible. If a 6 was here, it would eliminate everything, making this 7, making then this 8, and then making this 9. And then if this needs to be 9, can you get to 9 if 6 was here? No, because 6 couldn't be here if we were saying 6 was here. Yeah, you can't add up 6 and 3 to get to 9. And you can't add up 4 and 5 to get to 9. Could you possibly do 2 and 7? No, no, because you'd lose a 7. And you'd lose the 8. So 6 is not possible here, because these 3 are locking out 6s. In that one scenario, I guess. So before I read any more of the handwritten hint, can we run that calculation again and see if that's true for 7s? If one of these was 7, it kind of doesn't matter which. But let's just say it was here. Then 7 would eliminate this. This could be 6. And then this would be 8. And this would be 9. And then to get to 9 of the possibilities, since 7 and 8 and 6 would have been eliminated, I don't think you can get to 9 that way either, if 7 is here. Now, maybe if 7 is here, then that gives you a 6-8 possibility and doesn't change enough. No, if 7 was here, that eliminates that. That makes that 6. That makes this 8 still. That makes this 9 still. And then 7, 8, and 9 should all still be eliminated, which means a 6 could be here and a 3 could be here. So I think maybe that does work. The hint goes, putting a 6 in row 7, column 2 here makes 7 impossible in row 9, column 1. And this allows the rest of the puzzle to somehow be magically solved. 6 here would make this 7 or 8. But for some reason that somehow, I'm not sure I'm following the logic here. Yeah, I want to figure this out. Putting a 6 in this spot removes all the 6s from this. Makes this a 7 and 8 possibility, which if it's 7, then that would be 8, 9 here, and 8, 9 here, but 7 couldn't be here. If it was 8 here, then this could be 7, 9 here, but couldn't be 7, 9 here. Because of what reason? Is it possibly just something as simple that 7 needs to be here. I don't see that being the case. A 7 here to get to 7 would have to be a 2, 5 or 6, 1. A 6 wouldn't be viable if this was 6 and then this was 8 and this was 7. 6 wouldn't be viable, so then you could only get to 7 with a 5, 2. And if you put a 2 here, then the 2 would have to be, couldn't be anywhere else, which would make this a 5, which would eliminate this from being a 5. I guess that's the logic. And if you put the 2 here, that would eliminate this 2 and make this a 5, which then this couldn't be a 5. This couldn't be a 5 anyways because of this. Alright, I think I do understand that scenario. What I don't understand here, and we'll look at basic Sudoku, is that thus that allows the rest of the puzzle to be completed. Like, that seems incredibly premature. 154 minutes into this puzzle is not a terrible time, but I just don't see a smooth process through the rest of this puzzle. In no way. What it seems to imply to me is that I should have put this as a 6. And then if I put this as a 6, that should let everything else be solved, instead of taking it as a hypothetical. The possibilities for row 9, column 2 and 3 make 6 impossible for row 9, column 1. Apparently I didn't mark that correctly. Okay, so that then makes that an 8, 9. Which maybe that helps somehow. Then they were saying putting a 6 in this spot would make this be a 7, 8. If this was an 8 and this was a 7, things wouldn't work. Yeah, this is probably the worst so far. They're just getting worse and worse with the hints, as far as just like the puzzle's supposed to be solvable from this state. If it was solvable from this state, then the smart hint should be able to kick in. Let's just test and see if that's a 6. Yeah, I'm at like 30% at best as to understanding why that should have had to have been a 6. Doing that still does not let me do a smart hint, and we'll just try to see a smart hint every step of the way going forward. But if we look at the influence of 6s, which is what we just put in, that doesn't change. So whatever the next step I'm gonna have to do is just gonna have to be a guess. If I put an 8 here and this was a 9, then to get 2 and 9, you could do not 8, 1, you could do 7, 2, Sure. If I put a 7 here, then this could be 8 or 9. So to get to an 8, 3 and 5 would work to get to an 8 if this was a 7. Fine. Yeah, there's definitely elements I'm missing here. And I don't know if the ruling here should be that I should get rid of 7, 8, and 9 from all of these spots. I don't think that is the case. And if we take our eyes over to the rest of the puzzle, I'm not seeing the move. So let's just guess and say that was 7. Okay. So now the area of effect as far as 7s go are limited enough that I can break this pair and say that's 8 and say that's 7. And maybe the combination between these two, had they been mentioned in the handwritten notes, might highlight something as far as the possibilities. Because now you have a fairly constrained number of combinations between these two. If this is 8, it would have to be 5, 3. This can't be 8 just because that number is way too big. If this was 9, it would have to be, it can't be 9. We've lost 6s and 7s, and we can't have an 8 here. We can't have a 7 here. And if we couldn't have had a 9. So the biggest number you can get is 5, 3, which does mean that's a 5. Does mean that's a 3. That breaks that down, making that a 3, 6 pair. This apparently got eliminated down to a 6, which then breaks this pair and makes some progress. This pair getting broken down, making that pair, making this pair. Which, if this is a 6, this has to be a 5. Which maybe, I don't think this makes a quadruple between these numbers. Nor do I think it really affects the 5s. But then this 5 eliminates all these possibilities, this 5 eliminates all these possibilities, these 5 columns eliminate these possibilities, so that has to be a 5. So where's the next possibility? Kind of seems like we hit a speed bump at that point, but it's probably a case more that I'm just not seeing something. Yeah, the only 2 that can be here is there, which then means this can only be 2, and this can only be 6, and this can only be 3, and this can only be 6, then this can only be 1, and we've gotten the 2s completely done now. It's another great example where if you get to this point where it says the puzzle can now be completed, you should be able to just click next for a smart hint, and then it would just tell you a smart hint always if it actually could be completed at that step. Inherently, I guess you could also have a system check to say, you know what, there are specific things that need to be put into the Sudoku puzzle before we let you click next, because reading the next hint will not be helpful. Like, if I started a Sudoku puzzle, entered absolutely nothing, and then just skipped to like hint number 4, number 5, number 6, and tried to understand it, that wouldn't be helpful. You might as well just say you get hint 1, but then you have to input the numbers or mark the numbers that we're telling you to mark to continue. Then if you don't do that, it'll just pop up and say you need to make these markings. You could be even very generous and have a pop-up say, before you go to the next hint, you should have marked the Sudoku puzzle in a certain way. Click OK to automatically mark the puzzle based on this current hint. And then maybe it would just change your Sudoku puzzle for you. And at that idea, then maybe at a certain point there should just be a big warning at the very end here where you could click just finish the puzzle for me, and big warning there. That also would be something to at least think about. I think there's definitely some thoughts also that need to be given to the mentality and idea, that Sudoku puzzles are potentially very private. Pen and paper puzzles are very private, non-competitive experiences in which you could personally cheat and not really have to admit it to other people, or even really admit it to yourself in some situations. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more people who lie about solving crossword puzzles than there are people that actually do solve crossword puzzles. And then there's a lot of people that just cheat and help themselves get extra help. Inherently, I was really shocked in my experience in public schooling just on how blatant and casual cheating really is. Sometimes very much just by getting help from the teacher or having the teacher like encourage cheating, or open book tests at a certain point are not learning anything, and if the intention is to actually learn something and have the information in your brain, then I would call open book tests a form of cheating if the importance is education. If the idea of the test is really just to teach people how to find answers from a source material like a book, it's not cheating then. So there is an argument then. But then there was also just proper cheating, people sharing answers, looking over each other's shoulders, and if anything, it's kind of a good skill to somewhat develop in public school because everybody else is doing it. And that's inherently the problem with cheating in any kind of competition, is that when all of the Tour de France bike riders are blood doping or using steroids, then you might as well also be using steroids if you want to actually compete. Or if all the National Football League players are exercising and training with millions of dollars of extra advantage equipment, somebody who's just playing football in a cheap facility without that equipment is going to be unlikely to succeed. But that definitely wasn't my mentality. I never cared enough about my grades or or a school to cheat on any test. And I have a clear memory of a spelling test that was happening in like first grade when I was in school. And I saw several kids in first grade cheating. And certainly there's a point there that you probably shouldn't be having spelling tests that really count for any grades in first grade. And you definitely shouldn't have so much pressure being put on kids that they feel the need to cheat. There is really, in the United States in particular, a poor job done to send the message that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to accept those mistakes and learn from those mistakes. It's often better to make mistakes than to just, say, solve a Sudoku puzzle on your first try and say Sudoku puzzles are easy and never do another one. Challenge is important as part of entertainment. You can't make super easy games like clickers and keep people's attention forever, or keep most players' attention forever. So that was a long journey, a really, really long journey to get to the end of this puzzle. And let's just remove all the coloring first. Let's see how many colors that removes. Everything except for that one and that one. And yeah, as far as this puzzle goes, that they're all just incredibly difficult. It took 170 minutes to solve. The name constant overlap, I think, is fairly accurate, and it is a decent hint in a world where a lot of puzzles don't have names, or the names aren't very much hints towards the solution. I think this is a slight hint towards the solution, that the constant overlapping of arrows and thermometers, and having this arrow specifically overlap from this box to this box to this box, created a very unique solution that you have a 1, 2, 1 all adding together. But extra overlaps, more overlaps, probably wouldn't have changed things too much. If this arrow went down here, down here, down here, and then back here, I don't think that would have changed too much. Although it probably would have made it very difficult to even add up to 9 with 4 digits. It may literally be impossible to add up 4 digits and get below 9. But then once we had a fairly smooth starting position of this puzzle, it locked itself down very tightly towards figuring out some strategies that I was not 100% confident in understanding any of the strategies at all. I definitely needed 2 or 3 tutorial style Sudoku puzzles with thermos or arrows or weird triples that are in 3 different places. Like, I'm still not really 100% certain why this number, one of these numbers, has to also have been this number, which had to be opposite of this number, and that we got down to this number having to be this number. That way of thinking is definitely something I haven't been trained on and learned how to do. But yeah, we have no reason to drag this out, so that's going to be it for that puzzle. Next time, I guess we'll try a partial crop gate killer error. I'm not super frustrated at the moment. It might be a mistake. We only have 4 more of these super difficult puzzles. After this next one will be it the highest level of difficulty for the last 3. And then I guess the hope is for smooth sailing when we wrap up the series. Yeah, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.